Sinead, Connolly from Lotus People. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Nice to be here.
No, thank you. Thanks very much for being involved in Recruitment Journeys, the podcast series. So we're obviously talking via Zoom because we're all still kind of partially in lockdown. I'm in my funky little home office. What about yourself? Are you working from home today?
I'm home. Yep, we're back a couple of days, but I am home today. So hotspotting off my phone just in case the Wi-Fi does what it does as the planes have started going over again.
Yeah, yeah. So have you guys started merging or gradually staggering the return to the office? How's that working?
We have. So in the Sustain group, we are 4 businesses and 2 of us were rotating. So 2 going back 2 days a week, 2 going back 2 days a week. So
Yeah.
yeah, my team are in 2 of the 4 days that they're working, and it's been good. It's been amazing for culture. It's been amazing just to kind of get everyone back in the same room again. We
Yeah.
miss each other. We're not around each other.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the big stories of COVID is how much recruitment consultants and probably in every industry how much people actually miss human interaction, even though they probably don't realize it at the time.
We're a sales business, we're a people business, right? We want to be around each other, and I think that isolation, even if you don't realize it, as you kind of fall into your routines of working from home, you don't even realize how much you do miss those things until you haven't
Yeah.
been there.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, Sinead, thank you so much for being involved in Recruitment Journeys, the podcast series. Now, just before we went live, I've already introduced you to the listeners and the viewers, but would you be kind enough in your own words to introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, my name is Sinead Connolly, co-founder and director of Lotus People. We are part of the Sustain group of 4 businesses, including Sustain Health, Sustain Digital and Sustainability Consulting. I came out to Australia 10 years ago, fell into recruitment. It's a very classic, unoriginal story.
Mm,
Pretty much been in recruitment since then, and haven't looked back.
haven't
Here we
looked
are
back.
today.
You,
Yeah.
well, you certainly haven't. Yeah, you certainly haven't looked back, and that's part of what we're going to talk about and dig into today. And can you tell us a little bit about Lotus People as well, for anybody who doesn't know who you guys are?
Absolutely. So we're a Sydney-based office support agency. So we predominantly look after office support, HR, talent, lower level marketing roles. We do recruit nationally, but predominantly Sydney-based. I have a team of 10, and I set the business up 5 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So, just in case anybody watching hasn't heard the Recruitment Journeys podcast series before, very quick explanation of what this is all about. Recruitment Journeys is what it's called, which kind of explains what it is. We talk to selected identities from the recruitment industry. We talk about your recruitment journey from A to B and how you got where you are today, in the hope that people can listen to your story, be inspired, be motivated, be educated, and maybe just hear something that resonates, and they look at your story and go, "Cool, that's what I want to do with my life," or whatever it might be. So I kind of start all of these interviews in sort of the same way. Maybe, I suppose it's an icebreaker, but Sinead, so people watching can somehow get to better know Sinead Connolly, the person, and not just Sinead Connolly, the recruiter. Can you tell us something about yourself that not a lot of people might know?
For sure. I struggle with this. I'm such an open book. the
Okay.
way the way I am with my team, the way I am in life, I'm wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm an open book, but probably one thing that I don't shout about, or many people over here wouldn't be aware of, is the fact that my first job was serving fries in McDonald's at the tender age of 14. It was literally the only place in Ireland that would hire a 14-year-old. So I think it was like somewhat illegal. But from
Yeah.
a young age, I've been driven, and that was my first ever job.
So that's impressive to me, because I'm embarrassed to admit that I applied for a job at McDonald's and was rejected.
My goodness, I wonder what they saw in me that they didn't see in you, Pete.
I know. That's one of my biggest embarrassments, being rejected by, and I say that with respect to the people who work at McDonald's. But yeah, clearly my attitude in the interview was pretty awful.
Yeah, didn't quite make
Cool.
it.
Thank you. And then yeah, again, the next classic question is, how and why did you break into the wonderful world of recruitment, Sinead?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I think like many stories, it was an accident. From my perspective, I left school, did a commerce degree, was always very academic, have always been very driven. I've come from a family who my parents didn't go to uni. They didn't really kind of have careers, so to speak. And something in me has always just had this inherent drive to want to be successful and have a career. And I didn't really know what that looked like. But when I did arrive to Australia, I did the classic thing that you do on a working holiday visa and have the kind of back-to-back temp agency interviews. And by the Friday, I think I had about 12, not what you're meant to do, but I had about 12 agency interviews to register for temp work. And the very last one was registering with the first agency that I worked at. And I registered with my best friend, my Lotus co-founder, someone who I will mention a lot, Laura Hopes. And at that time, she asked me if I wanted to work on the front desk of that agency. And I thought, well, that sounds like a career. Let's do that.
Right. So you didn't meet Laura in your first recruitment job. You were already friends before.
No, sorry. No. So at that point, she was just a recruiter who I was registering with.
Sorry. Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. And she saw something in you and pulled you in.
Yeah, so I started on reception, then went into a resourcer role, then into a consultant role, and kind of into a senior role from there. But it was I just loved it. The way my brain works, it's a mix of marketing, psychology, business, and that's exactly how my brain works. And so the relationship piece probably was the main driver. And even being a complete bubba sitting on the front desk, I just was fascinated and hooked instantly. The pace of it, the people, the kind of level of work they were doing. I absolutely loved it from the beginning.
Yeah. So how long were you working on the front desk before they called you onto a desk?
I was trying to work this out earlier because I figured you might ask me, and it's one of those things that's just blended in my memory now. But it was 3 months, and then I was a resourcer for 6 months, and then, or maybe, 3 months, 6 months in total, and then I became a consultant. So, and I didn't want to become a consultant. I was, in my mind, introverted, shy, didn't think I had what it takes to be a consultant. And so it actually took a lot of coercing from Laura, from my manager at the time, to even get me to step into that role, which is hilarious now. But yeah, that's how the
wow. So you were a reluctant recruiter and now you are an award-winning recruitment business owner. Okay, well that makes it all a bit more interesting then, because one of my kind of fascinations with your story is that so this was at Cox Pertel, and in total you were with Cox Pertel for 2.5 years?
No, it was 3 years and 7 months in total.
3 years, 7 months, all right, not even close, but even so if you spent roughly the first year in I suppose a support role, you essentially, alongside Laura, who obviously gave you kind of strength and motivation to do so, you basically started Lotus people with only a couple of years recruitment experience.
Yeah.
I mean, look, don't get me wrong, some people do it. Plenty of people do it. But the vast majority of people who start recruitment businesses have been in recruitment for usually 10 years. They've held management roles. They've been high performers, whatever it might be. They've got something in their tool bag that gives them the confidence to go and take that leap of faith. You didn't necessarily have, you might have had some of the above, but not all of the above. What was it that gave you that confidence to take that leap of faith? And it was a leap of faith.
It was, absolutely, it was. And look, I think the way that Laura and I work together, we're yin and yang. We will always be. We are such good friends, and we work so well together. And I think we are an extension of each other's brains. At the time, we were high billers, high performers, knew that the way we worked in tandem was basically a success formula. And so in our minds, we kind of, it was I guess, thinking if we did this ourselves, as many people do think, obviously we think we could make this work very well. But on the flip side, we also had somebody who had actually approached Laura. He was always trying to hire her himself. And he approached Laura and said, hey, look, I actually want you to set up an agency. I want to back you. And she said, we come as a pair. This is how this works. We come as a pair, we work together. And we actually went quite far down the line with him in terms of, we registered the business, we had a name, we had the branding, and he actually pulled out for a few different reasons. But at that point, I think we were so far down, and we were young. We were 26, 27. So you have to also allow for the fact that there's an element of naivety in kind of, we didn't have mortgages, we didn't have commitments, we didn't have kids, we still don't, but we kind of didn't have any of those things that as you get older, I think, this is a generalization, I think you kind of have more hesitations, and the risk and the consideration around risk is higher. So at that point, we were just in our careers. We were working crazy hours, crazy pace, 2 temp recruiters and business support. And so when somebody kind of said, hey, I have this venture or this idea, or I think both of you could do this, it was enough of a seed to be planted to never, in 2 brains that are type A personalities, extremely driven, extremely hardworking, there was enough of
there's the cat. We knew the cat would make an appearance.
Of Zoom. That will be back as well. You'll see just my arm kind of removing a cat's body out of the way every now and then.
It's cool. Look, yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but my sausage dogs have already been barking in the background. So we've had the full domestic pet complement.
Amazing. We need to lock them further away next time. So I think that was it. The seed was planted. You've got these 2 personalities who just kind of want to be successful. They know that they work well. They know that they have these really, really, really strong relationships. And so when that investor dropped out, we then said, okay, well, let's do this. So we actually went to a rec and said, look, this is unusual, but we come as a pair. And we had about 10 interviews set up with 10 different recruitment agencies over the course of a couple of weeks, had really, really intense, long interviews, meetings, putting our business case forward. Some kind of wanted to set us up as a division.
So sorry, were you interviewing when you went to market? You and Laura, were you interviewing saying we want to start? We're not looking for a job. We're looking for a business opportunity. Is that what you were saying?
So the way that it worked is that we said we're happy to do a division setup in an agency that doesn't have business support, or we're happy to do our own thing. And if you back us as a separate business, we have the Lotus people branding, we have the business plan, we have the idea, we have all of that ready to go. Amazing. So we kind of went to market saying, first of all, we don't know if anyone will want us to set up our own business. We don't know if anyone else is going to back us. We had this one guy who expressed interest, but beyond that, we actually didn't know if it was going to be something that the market would be interested in. Of course, we knew anyone would hire us to set up a division, proven billers in another agency. So when we went out and had those 10 meetings, about 4 of them wanted to offer us investment to run our own thing. So we kind of went through long processes, lots of kind of catching up in pubs afterwards with pros and cons lists and figuring out kind of what does our gut say and all of the rest of it, and what did the deals look like. And in the end, we went with Sustainability Consulting, who
so like I've known the sustainability business for quite a few years, particularly Martin. I've known Martin for longer than I care to remember. So in my mind, it's pretty obvious why you chose those guys. Of course, I don't know who the other 3 were that you rejected, but why did you choose sustainability?
Yeah, look, I think we considered all of the offers. It wasn't a case of there was only really one viable option. We considered all of them. But the reason that we did land with them in the end, one, because the deal actually was the most appealing. The way that the deal worked is that we, over time, were able to claw back more equity in the business. So that it was, of course, incredibly appealing. And also, I guess, the value alignment with them. We just hit it off. It was kind of knowing that they have a strong work ethic, they've got a great business, but also in just that again, the people relationship piece, we just hit it off with them. The banter, that lovely mix between being smart, intelligent, commercial, savvy business people, but also on the flip side, being warm and amazing family people and just kind and hilarious. So it really was just that synergy between us, and we hit it off from the first day, and we've continued to have a partnership that has been fantastic, and there hasn't been any bumps within that. I never regret for a second that we sought investment and didn't do it ourselves.
Fantastic. So when you were taking Lotus people to market, and when you were putting together your business plan, what was your USP? How did you want Lotus people to be different? What was the gap that you were trying to fill?
Yeah, so I think for us, when we walked into those boardrooms, it was the energy. We were just I still am, so passionate, and it was care factor. Everything we were selling was care factor.
Yeah.
We didn't drop any balls in how we recruited. It was all business support recruitment is by nature, it's service. There is an abundance of candidates. It's not a candidate short market. It's very different to kind of other recruitment businesses who have flipped the model. And so for us, if it's all about service, do service in the best practice way. And we had worked with people naturally who dropped the ball on things and who perhaps didn't have the same level of customer service or perhaps didn't have the same level of responsive. And we worked almost to a level of hysteria in terms of just how quickly we delivered, and how also on the same token, how able we were to build very authentic relationships with people. So we already kind of knew that that had worked for us, and that's what we wanted to bottle and replicate. And so it was quite easy to speak to the best practice model of how we think recruitment should be run in our sector. We articulated that to people, and people just kind of saw that spark in our eyes and thought, yeah, they know what they're doing.
Yeah. And you've had an amazing run. So it's been 5 years. And how many people, look, I suspect like most businesses, you might have lost a couple of people because of COVID. That is not unique to Lotus people. I can't think of a recruitment business that hasn't lost people. But pre-COVID, when you were humming along at your peak, how many people were you?
I think we were 13 at our peak, and we're at 9 now.
Yeah.
That wasn't for loss to COVID, but and we'll always sit around that level. I want to be boutique. I want to be a business that is focused on quality, and I know the nature of what we can achieve and what we can do. I don't necessarily want to scale that to kind of 20, 30, 40 people. I think within the group we have 45 people or so, and so we benefit from having that energy and that buzz of lots of other people around. But for my business in particular, I don't have visions or goals of it being this kind of giant scalable agency. I want it to be boutique and have the care factor.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so we've obviously talked about Laura a couple of times, and I know that Laura's, I mean, I hadn't realized how significant and impactful Laura had been in your life. I mean, basically she kind of pulled you into recruitment. She pulled you into this crazy idea, which has turned into a raging success. Very much a sliding doors moment for you when you met her. She's changed your life, and I know she's still friends with you today. But she's not with Lotus people anymore. She was very much initially the driving force behind the whole thing. But ultimately, if you're happy to share this, and if you're happy to speak on Laura's behalf, why did she? Because I believe she chose to take a different route. What's the story there?
Yeah, look, more than happy to speak about it. We obviously speak about it a lot. Obviously, I don't want to tell her story and speak kind of from her perspective, but our first year, I can obviously tell you what happened. Our first year, we just went gangbusters. We were hugely successful, hugely quickly. We had obviously our restraint period, which we respected. And in that time, we were, of course, in a position to leverage sustainability's client base. And so we spent our first 6 months meeting and building relationships with their client base and built that up very quickly. And then naturally, when our restraints lifted, we had a lot of relationships that we had previously as well. So we kind of had these different sources of clients, meaning that, and of course, the pace at which we've always worked, which is very, very fast in business support, temp recruitment. We just went between the two of us in our first year. I think we had one resourcer and the two of us, and we turned over 1.5, almost 1.5 million in our first year. So the pace was just insane, and I burnt myself out. I had to take a few weeks off at Christmas, and it was completely unsustainable. Like everything about how we were working as individuals, it was just completely unsustainable. And it's amazing to have kind of a business that is so successful so quickly, and people were speaking about us and all of this good stuff. But I actually, and I kind of don't speak about this a lot, but I got chronic fatigue syndrome. So I actually, essentially,
no surprise.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. It's essentially adrenal burnout. And so I ended up having about 3 months out of the business in total. I was kind of working on submissions and tenders and doing things from home, but I absolutely burnt myself out. So Laura, in that time, at the very early stages of the business, that was within the first year, probably about 9 months in, Laura ran everything. She was doing it all on her own. She was obviously working closely with Martin and the guys. but she really had a huge amount on her shoulders. And within that time, she had a few things going on in her
Sure.
personal life. And she also was doing a yoga teacher training course at the same time. So when I came back to the business, and we were super excited to get us both back together and reset and everything, and she was just so burnt out and so exhausted. And she just started her yoga teacher training, and everything about that appealed to where she needed to be, the yin in her life rather than the absolute yang of
Wow.
the madness of recruitment. And so we kind of just had a number of conversations, and she kind of said, you know what, I don't think I can do this anymore. I've been doing it for 10 years and I'm so exhausted, and I just don't think I can do it. And it was absolutely heartbreaking. And of course it was a trauma and all of the rest of it at the time, but we've always said business is second, friendship is first, and we have come out stronger and better, and it's all worked out in the paths. We diverged, but it has worked out exactly as it was meant to.
Yeah. But isn't that fascinating? Because no, look, I'm always, if I'm honest, I'm always very envious of people who follow their passion in life, follow their vocation in life.
Mm-hmm.
Rec to rec has served me well, but it's never necessarily been a vocation.
Podcasting, surely that's your passion.
Yeah. So there she is, and she's started a business with you that's turned over 1.5 million in the first year, which is like mad. And she's walked away from it. And kudos to her. You know, she knew that was the right thing for her, and fair play to her. But then, so that's okay. So sorry, go on.
I was going to say, it's so brave. It's such and the 4 directors of sustainability, they still say it is one of the bravest decisions that they've seen anyone make. And it is. She could have easily just kept on that train. We said, take 6 months off. We'd so many conversations where she had options, and she just thought, I know I need to follow my gut on this one. I know that I need to just call it a clean break. Otherwise I'll be in limbo in my life. So yeah, you're exactly right. It's completely great. It's worked out perfectly for her as well. So it's, I think fortune favors the bold, right?
Absolutely. No, fair play to her. So okay, so Laura exits left. You've just returned from a self-imposed period of rest. How do you then manage yourself and not kind of falling into that trap again? How do you keep balance in your life?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. I think I learned a lot in being sick. I think it's all about then coming back and going, I need to manage my days differently. I need to manage and we started to hire, of course, at that point. At that point, I had a few consultants and had team members, and was able to, when I'm talking about me and Laura in the first kind of year, I'm talking about us, the 2 of us with our resources. So naturally, as these timelines go on, we had extra people in the business who could take on desks and key accounts and all the rest of it. But yeah, I think I remember coming back and obviously having conversations with Martin and with the other shareholders and saying, I know I won't be that sick again. I know I will never, ever, ever, and I haven't, burn out in that way again, because I have learned so much about what I put my body through and my nervous system through. And it's something now that it's a key kind of component of what Lotus is about, is that holistic kind of, I do a lot around well-being, and I care so deeply about mental health and my team's health. And so that's kind of part of the holistic kind of nature of how we operate now. So naturally you learn from experiences like that, but it was a learning. And I think the biggest thing for me was with Laura leaving, she is the more experienced one. I'm the introvert and she's the extrovert. She's incredibly confident, and I was absolutely petrified. She was leaving, and I'm going, I know in my heart of hearts that this is the right decision. I know that I will be okay. I know that I have the support of sustainability and my investors. I know that I'm building an amazing team, but I was absolutely petrified. I had imposter syndrome that I couldn't even begin to describe. I have not much experience. Someone's going to find out that I've no idea what I'm doing. And all of that was just a huge battle to overcome. And it has been something to overcome. It's taken years and experience and consistent evidence of the fact that it's not true, and I absolutely am where I need to be and deserve to be here and all the rest. But that was a huge consideration. So I was kind of battling that with the new workload. But again, as I say, from that burnout, I knew that I would never be in a position where I would be that sick and that burnt out again.
I honestly find it fascinating that you walked into recruitment agencies to register, and you got a job on the reception desk, and then that somehow morphed into running a very successful recruitment business on your own.
I know.
With limited experience. It's mad. It's mad. You must be, and your family and your loved ones and your friends and Laura must be tremendously proud of you. You must be proud of yourself.
Mm-hmm. They absolutely are. And yeah, my parents are. It was my birthday this week, and I was supposed to be in Ireland with them, and they all made these videos and sent, they did so much for me from a virtual angle. And in looking at them all, I'm just like, I came from they're all nutters, like legitimate nutters, but they're all just so kind and so caring. And I just have that grounding. I have the grounding of coming from an environment that was so loving. And whilst they aren't business people, I've always had that in me to have that. I have commercial acumen, and I've always had a lot of drive. And so I think coupling that with the foundation that I've had through how I've grown up and who I've been around and my friends and just the solid people in my life, it's just a combination that has been a formula that's worked, I guess. And it's really kind of held me in good stead for how I interact and how I do business and how I treat people. And I think fundamentally that's what it comes down to in life, in business, and obviously in recruitment as well. But no, I am proud of myself. And I think it's because I have had to overcome so much fear around that self-belief piece. And I think to say it was luck or in the right place at the right time, I probably might have said that at one point, but I know it's not true. It comes down to hard work and
absolutely.
And as I said before, putting the right people around you. Like, I know that if I partnered with people who were more egotistical or more kind of had values that were misaligned, I wouldn't be as successful. But because I kind of align myself with people who have the same way of working and ideas about life, it's worked out.
Yeah. Fair play to you, and thank you for your honesty. Now, okay, so we've talked about the success of Lotus People from I suppose, an early revenue perspective, but we haven't talked about the awards, because you guys came from nowhere, and then suddenly you seem to be scooping up every single award available to a human. Now, I'm going to embarrass you here, Sinead, possibly, and this might take at least 6 minutes, but I'm going to actually read.
Enjoy it.
I've got them written down. I'm going to read the awards, and I'll start in 2017 up to most recent. So, winner, Recruitment Services Small Business Champion Awards. Finalist, Rising Star Recruitment International Awards. Winner, Best Small Agency to Work For, Recruitment International Awards. Finalist, Excellence in Small Business, New South Wales Business Chamber Awards. Finalist, Employer of Choice, New South Wales Business Chamber Awards. This is a good one. Winner, Sinead Connolly, Young Entrepreneur, Irish Australian Chamber of Commerce Awards. I'm only about halfway through. Finalist, Back Office Support Team of the Year, Recruitment International Awards. Finalist, Best Small Agency to Work For, Recruitment International Awards. That one's for Sarah Cornwall, but again, you had more winners within your business. Finalist, Small Recruitment Agency of the Year, Seek Annual Recruitment Awards. And then finally, in 2019, Best Small Recruitment Company to Work For, Recruitment International Awards, which is obviously a recurring theme, the best agency to work for. So tell me, was pursuing awards for your business something that just happened, or was it a strategy? Was it something that you just enjoyed? How did because this can't come about by chance or luck, or did they come to you? So many of them.
Yes, thank you. That was fascinating listening to you. Don't think anyone's read them out to me before, but it was lovely. Thank you. Look, from the beginning, we knew that we wanted an agency that would be good enough to be able to win these awards. It was always led by me in even the writing them. Even when I was sick, I was writing award submissions. I am introverted in how I work. So sitting down and spending 5 hours kind of writing and pulling it all together is an enjoyable thing to me rather than a heinous thing. But I think what we really wanted to do was be the disruptor for our industry and be the ones who focused on balance and focused on kind of, I guess, well-being and being progressive in, particularly in office support recruitment, which has been traditionally more secretarial and corporate and a little bit more old school in how it operates. So because we were being a disruptor and we considered ourselves innovative, and I think we were, it felt almost remiss to kind of think, well, why not go forward for these things? We know that we are shifting and changing things in our space, so why wouldn't we, I suppose. So they didn't come to us. It was a case of, I mean, the main one that I always look to is the Seek Awards. I think they're probably the most prestigious, and I think they are the ones that have the most rigorous process. And we have been a finalist a couple of times for a small agency at the Seek Awards, and I was a finalist for Leader of the Year last year at the Saras.
So is that the award that you're most proud of?
So we were finalists, so we haven't won one of those yet.
Okay. but you will.
Absolutely. And so in terms of speaking to strategy then, though, that actual criteria, the submission, is really, really intensive. So you have to literally pull apart your operational processes, your candidate experience, your client experience, and the questions are almost prompts. So what we do is I sit down and I look at those questions and say, well, what are we going to do for the next 12 months? So I've used those questions as almost a baseline or a kind of a blueprint for what the next year's strategy is going to look like. If they have this really long list of criteria of what they want to see us demonstrating, I then say, well, what can we and how can we get creative and what are we going to do to answer those questions in the most innovative way? So it's a combination of I guess, having strategy around it and really wanting to be the type of agency that is deserving of awards like that. And I felt that we were putting enough energy and effort into our team culture, into our people experience, into our client and candidate experience, that it made sense that we would be one of those agencies that was up there again and again.
Yeah. It's so true. I think the first time I met you, and I can't remember when that was, 3-4 years ago, Laura was still in the business. I met you and Laura for the first time. I remember walking into the offices and there was yoga mats kind of all over the place. It didn't feel like a recruitment business, certainly didn't feel like a business support recruitment business. And then here you are today, unless my eyes deceive me, you're actually in an Adidas t-shirt, which is branded Lotus. Is that right?
Yep.
I mean, that's not your typical old school business support recruitment business. All right, awesome. So just want to quickly talk about COVID. You know, we can't not talk about. I know everybody's probably getting to the point where they're probably a bit sick of talking about it, but we sort of can't ignore it. I suppose I'm keen to know, how is it going to change Lotus people when it's all said and done and we are clear, we've got no more cases and we can go about our business as usual? How will your business be different because of COVID?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And look, the way that my brain works and the culture that we have in the business is almost to the point where my team can roll their eyes at me when I say it, but what's the learning? What's the learning in every single situation, whether it's just a job not being filled or whatever? It's always my question to everyone, what's the learning? And that's something that I ask myself constantly. I have an absolute growth mindset and I am a lifelong learner. So I am so focused on self-improvement, and that naturally translates into the business as well. With COVID, obviously this has happened, and I think what it has given us an opportunity to do is just give us the space to look at everything. And that could be operations, it could be team structure, it's divisions. And I've really looked at, and I keep calling it to the team, I keep saying that this is our rebirth. The lotus flower itself, it signifies the flower is a rebirth of ideas. So I do strongly feel that we're going to come out of this 2.0. I asked Greg Savage recently to come and speak at a kind of collab group that I set up for female agency owners about 2 years ago. We meet monthly to share ideas, and Greg Savage came and spoke to us, and he said, every agency will tell you that they're going to come out the other side of this and have a different way of doing it. But I guarantee you, the second the jobs start coming in, old habits die hard. We'll be straight back to how we were. And so that really resonated. And I feel quite passionately about taking actions to make sure that we are doing things differently. And that might be, as I say, kind of automation and looking at how we can be more efficient. It might be metrics. But also within COVID, as soon as it hit, the first thing I did, and I've actually, despite the fact that our business is naturally business support, we are so impacted by it. And of course, it's a bloody tough time, and more tough times ahead for sure. But what I have really enjoyed over the last 3 months is creating and having the space to be able to think about what we're delivering and what value we're adding to clients, and doing things that are above and beyond just the checking calls and BD and candidate calls. So we instantly, I accredited a couple of my team for career transitioning programs and eye placements. So that was instantly another stream, revenue stream that I could kind of add into the business given the market that we're in. We also, I've decided to launch a HR desk. So rather than kind of focusing just on business support, doing the odd HR role, I've been building up that HR and talent desk, and have done a lot with senior HR people over the last few months, building really strong relationships, which inevitably, as things come good, will result again in another revenue stream, and also support the business support side of the business too. And also we've been doing webinars and creating resources, and just thinking big and thinking about each of our webinars have had about 500, almost 500 people on them. Wow. So we've been kind of pumping them out. I instantly went to Canva and Facebook and Seek and Business Chicks and businesses that I really respect, and kind of did the, hi, do you fancy being on my webinar? And people say yes. People are generous.
They do. You just got to ask, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's been the way it will change will be that we will definitely look at our day-to-day processes and kind of how we do things. But we've also I've done a restructure and I've kind of moved a few desks and patches around, and that's already working so well. So yeah, definitely lots of learnings in it. For someone who is so passionate about learning, there's been, despite all of the hideousness of everything that's gone on, there's been a lot of opportunity for my brain to go, okay, but what's the silver lining? What are the lessons?
That's it, silver linings. I keep talking about silver linings, and I think any business, indeed any human being who doesn't use this time, this period to kind of look in the mirror and reflect. There was all this negative press about if you're not out there learning a different language and running 10K a day, and I don't think you need to do that. I don't think anybody is doing that, but I do think there is an opportunity just to take stock, have a think, reset, and just try and improve. And if we as humans, and indeed business owners and recruiters, don't do that, then we're missing a trick. The people who do it are, setting themselves up for further success in the future. And clearly, you're doing that. You're not sitting on your hands.
Exactly. And look, I know of businesses, and absolutely no judgment, different kind of strokes for everyone. But I know of businesses who have gone into hibernation, and everyone has to do what they have to do for their business to survive. And so going into hibernation and just kind of cutting salaries and standing people down, that's absolutely a viable option. But for me, I couldn't have done that. The nature of how I run the business and how I want to run the business, I would have to spring into action, and good in a crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, we are done. Sinead, thank you so much. That was genuinely fascinating. I obviously didn't know that you walked into a recruitment agency and then suddenly started running a recruitment agency and everything that happened in between. Thank you so much for your candor. Thank you so much for being involved. I look forward to speaking to you when the fog lifts and we get through this crazy thing.
Absolutely. My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Sinead. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.